This is Laugh or Death, hosted by keynote speaker Paul Ozenkup.
All right, I'm very excited to have our guest today, Shola Richards, who is the CEO and founder of Go Together Global, the best-selling author of the award-winning book Civility, and the host of the Kindness Extremist podcast, which is an awesome listen. We'll talk more about that later on as well. But most of all, Shola is leading a worldwide movement to change the world based on how we treat each other. His tireless international efforts to make the world a kinder place from San Juan to Singapore have earned him the well-deserved nickname Brother Teresa. And as a speaker, Shola has shared his transformative message with Fortune 500 companies such as Google, Microsoft, and he's been on The Today Show, CBS Mornings. And in his greatest honor to date, in 2021, he was invited to testify in front of the United States House of Representatives on Capitol Hill to share his expert recommendations on how to bring more civility to Congress. And Shola and I both think that they could use a refresher course. Maybe they'll have him back out to do a longer workshop, maybe get a few copies of his book or something like that. And let's just really mix it up. But anyway, please, if you're listening, give a slight, little round of applause in your own head for Shola Richards, everybody.
Oh, Paul, my guy. A couple of things. First of all, it's so fun to connect with you and to do this podcast with you because I love your content so much. I just think you're hilarious, but more than just being hilarious, you're so smart. If you have not seen
this is like a cabinet meeting right now. It's like we sit around.
It feels like it. Just put me up. I mean, but you gotta send me. I'm gonna send you my Venmo handle so you can pay me for this later. So it's like, but you have this one social media post that I don't know. I just hit me where you have this you're a coach and you're having this kind of post game press conference about a meeting that went awry. It is. I'm a huge sports fan, so it is one of the funniest things ever. So it's just so cool to be on your podcast, get a chance to chop it up with one of my guys, another middle-aged guy, bald-headed guy who happily is doing the podcast thing. I'm here for it.
Appreciate it, man. Well, yeah, for those of you listening, Shola and I, aside from being essentially identical twins, we also share something in common is that we're both keynote speakers. And so it's kind of a different job that we do for a living. I was thinking about that as I was reading your bio, Shola, and I was thinking that you are a person who gets to share that thing with me, which is an awkward part of our job, is standing there while someone reads this list of accomplishments, this bio. And I was thinking, I was kind of trying to watch you out of the corner of my eye. Is it still weird for you when that happens? Like when you're standing next to the stage and they're going on and on about Shola's done this and this and this. What do you do then?
It's funny. It's my least favorite part of speaking. It really is. Because on one hand, you have to let them know that you're not some bozo and you actually have some credentials before you speak to an audience.
And they want
they want that. So when I'm backstage, if it's a bigger event and I'm backstage, then I'm cool. Then no one wants to see my face. But if I'm standing there or I'm sitting in the audience, I literally do not know what to do with my face. You saw it. It's as you're reading, I'm like, do I look down? Do I smile? I'm puffing up my chest. It's just a very weird energy. And man, it's something that if you have any tips for a brother on how to manage that awkwardness, I literally here for it, man, because I do not know what to do when my bio's being read.
I like the idea when you said, I don't know if I should puff out my chest. That would be a hilarious go-to of they're like, and Shola's been on CBS. You're like, that's right.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Damn right. What? Yeah. Who is this guy? Exactly.
I do the same. I just kind of stand there and smile. But you know what I do, though? For one, you're all about kindness. And I do think giving people a script to read is a kind thing to do because it's just another thing for them to have to go oh, how am I going to introduce this person? Most event hosts aren't, doing that necessarily for a living. So it's maybe not their wheelhouse to do. So it's a kind thing to kind of give them that to do.
Yeah, it is. What's unkind though is having them Google your stuff and you're sitting here wondering and hey, and back in, gosh, what is that, 2012? Shola, here's some pictures of him. Whoa. So I don't want people Googling me before they introduce me. I would prefer them to have something that I'm prepared for.
Yeah, it's a way to kind of keep, It's funny too, because speaking on humor, I get a lot of event hosts that think they need to be funny introducing me too. So they'll go off the cuff, like trying to make some jokes. And I'm like, oh,
Nope.
it's kind of like when you're doing comedy and the opener doesn't do a great job warming up the crowd. And then it's kind of like, oh boy, here we go.
Here we go.
So yeah, now I've learned, like, just have them read the standard bio. My thing though that I do is that I have my bio sound all great, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And then I get up there and I always start with, oh, thank you so much. That is probably the nicest introduction I've ever written. And that always gets a little chuckle from, because everyone knows I wrote that anyway. You know, like they
Can I steal that from you? Do you mind?
Yes.
One thing that I think is so powerful about what you just said, and I think this is what real good humor is. It's like, I study stand-up comedians, and I've always have in terms of what I use on stage, like comedic timing. And there's a lot of speakers who, quite frankly, take themselves so seriously, and they always have to, and I'm speaking from a guy who used to be that dude. I am a black man navigating kind of a space that's been historically dominated by white men, trying to figure out how to navigate. And I want to feel like I'm well-read and I am well researched and I have all these things, and I'd get so serious. And I'm not a serious guy. I take my work crazy seriously. I don't take myself seriously at all. So I'm a funny guy, as I like to be, like I am sometimes. And I want to show the humor side. So that if you don't mind me borrowing that from you.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
Okay. I mean,
I
literally,
feel like,
I'm getting next week. I'm using it.
for me, it takes the edge off, like, just for me, like, it's kind of a selfish thing, because it's like, you know, that bio is always like building you up and saying how great you are and all this stuff. And like you said, we stand there feeling awkward. So for me to be able to just do that. And I think it also, you know, humor is really great for, like, if you're in a position of authority or power, to be able to, you know, make yourself more approachable and accessible to people. So it automatically does that. Like, hey, that's all great stuff, but, you know, I wrote that. And it kind of, the audience, it's just naming a truth. And that's most of what comedy is, you know, it's just naming a truth in the room, and everybody's like, oh, that's great. Okay, good. And now we're off on the right foot. So yeah, man, take it. Yeah. I love how you approach your work though, because you do speak about a serious topic, you know, civility, people getting along, being kinder to one another. But the fact that you have fun doing it and add some humor into it, I want to talk about that as we go down, because that is like that's a gift, you know. And I don't know if that's something that just comes natural to you, or if that's really intentional, like you build those moments into your talks. But I guess I want to start out, because I want for the listener out there to kind of get to know you personally a little bit. And talking about bringing, you know, making ourselves more approachable to people. One way is to share something embarrassing about ourselves. Okay. Doesn't have to be crazy. Doesn't have to be crazy embarrassing. But I always like to start with a question. What's something weird about you that you love? That's not super embarrassing, but something weird about you that you love, or something weird that makes you happy. And let's unpack this a little bit.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we could literally spend the entire rest of this podcast episode on this question. And I'm in my head trying to think of like something that's really off the beaten path. Okay. I don't know why this is hitting me right now, but it's kind of what I'm thinking. One thing that I love that's kind of cringy that I really have never talked about is I love professional wrestling. Like,
oh yes, really? I would
not
have pegged you as a professional wrestling guy.
No one would. That's the whole point. And it's so I love it because it's so interesting. So as a nerd of all things public speaking, when you look at these big dudes and women, quite frankly, on the mic, they are so most people think pro wrestling, oh, it's fake. All right. Just to say, it's not fake, it's scripted. Those are two very different things. Right. So if it's fake, I want to see you get in there. I want you to see you get slammed on the mat and see how fake it is. It's not fake, it's scripted. So putting that aside, these folks, besides being just hulking masses of humanity, they're so good on the mic. They're well spoken.
Yes.
They are funny. They understand comedic timing. They play back and forth with the audience. You have in an arena with 20,000 people screaming at you. You're playing off of it and you're doing all this work. It's mind blowing how effective these guys are. People are. And I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, I love it. And the storytelling is so cheesy. It's like a soap opera. It's like, it's so funny watching like, oh, these guys are part of the same gang. And now he turned on him. I can't believe what happened. So when I need to unplug from the dumpster fire that is our current world and be able to find a way to just kind of like go into mindless enjoyment, pro wrestling.
I love it, man.
Love it, man. I'm here for it. So that's a fun thing.
That's so cool. I could kind of see that in you now that you mention it though, because like I've seen your videos where like they introduce you, they call your name, there's music playing, you get up on stage, you're like, let's go. Let's go.
It's pro wrestling informed, 100%. Yeah,
I love
it.
Well, it's an entertainment, industry, and as a speaker, you've got to capture a room, you've got to capture the energy of a room, and for one person to be able to elevate the energy of a room of say 2,000, 5,000 people, I mean, it takes a lot of energy to do that. So that's cool. If I ever get to MC an event that you're gonna speak at, I'm totally going to like introduce you pro red, like, ooh, yeah. Are you ready for the kindness extremist? Shola, baby.
Do you smell what Paul is cooking? Oh,
man. I love it.
Cool. I'm here for it.
Well done. Okay, cool. I got a wrestling fan in the house. Okay, cool. Well, so you said that you don't take yourself too seriously. I've seen, some of your like Instagrams and stuff with you doing TikTok dances with your daughters in a penguin suit. So I can vouch, like you don't take yourself too seriously. Where does your sense of humor come from? Like were you always kind of a silly kid? Were one of your parents real? Where do you get that?
You know what's funny? A lot of it comes from what you said earlier. So, and I don't remember if this was before we started recording or not, so apologies if y'all missed it. But what we were talking about was how humor is just, and in fact, I think it was recorded, humor just calling out truths, but truths that are relatable. And I think about the funniest people I know, it's like you're sharing stuff, and I've always been someone who's really observant. So, and I look at things, I'm like, okay, that's weird. Like, why? Like, I was on a flight recently, and actually not too recently, it feels recent, but this guy took off his shoes and socks on the plane. That's gross, right? Yeah, I mean, man. No one can argue that's gross. But what was fascinating is that the same guy took his iPhone charging cable and started flossing between his toes with it.
No, he didn't.
He sure did. He sure did. Now, when you think about it, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, they talk about common sense not being that common, right?
Right.
And what is so interesting is like,
bro, it's comfortable.
I'm like, he's chilling. He's in his living room, man. Talk about a lack of it's like talk about a lack of self-awareness. I honestly think that common sense is like deodorant, right? The people who need it the most always apply it the least. And you see it with this guy, right? Yeah. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching. It's like, so instead of being grossed out by it, which I was, I need to write this down because there's something here that will be usable later. Like, because everyone can relate to that person on the flight who is, on speakerphone or playing games and not using headphones and talking loudly or putting their feet on the chair in front of you. Like, it's like these things, and you bring it into like, oh my gosh, you talk about kindness. Now, being aware of how your words and actions affect others is really a big part of kindness, right?
Right.
So if I take this as an example, that example then really resonates in the brain of someone who's listening, like, oh my God, I can relate. And they're going to think of their own story and talk about, see, this is what kindness is, being aware of how our words and actions affect others. This guy, because he wasn't aware, was being unkind. We need to think about this in our workplaces, in our communities, how we engage politically, and all these things. From a simple, stupid story about a guy taking his shoes and socks off on a plane can now have a bigger and more widespread utility because I'm using this in a way that's more broadly applicable than just talking about some guy taking off his shoes and socks on a plane.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, and what you're getting at there too, with like noticing this absurd thing that's happening and thinking to yourself like, okay, that's weird. I got to write this down.
Yes.
For one, that also helps you compartment. Like, it also makes it so that you don't get irrationally angry about it because you're noticing it as somewhat absurd or comical enough that you want to write it down, which kind of takes the freak out level too down from like a 10 to a 6. Like, Okay, this is crazy. And it kind of comes to like I talk about mantras a lot, and that you can have kind of more silly mantras. You don't always have to have serious ones. But one mantra that's a little bit more grounded for me that I take with me everywhere is it's all material. Like all of life is just material. You know,
oh, material. Material that you can use later. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all, but like everything that happens, it's all material. And especially for someone that does keynote speaking like you, for comedians, it's like everything that happens around us, man, it's all material. And for the average person, this might be material to share at happy hour later with your friends, at a dinner party, or even in the beginning of your next presentation for work. But like stuff like that happens, like, hey, just write that down, jot it down. It's all material for later. And maybe you'll be able to use that somehow.
Brother, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that, because I think a lot of times when folks who want to get into public speaking, they feel like they need to have this like transformative story. Like, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and I lost both of my feet on the way, and I had to figure out a way to climb just using my elbows only. I was blinded by the snow, and I got a call, even though I had no reception, from my wife saying she's leaving me because she's with the pool guy. Like, and then I made it to the top. Like, it doesn't have to be that. In fact,
right.
If we can think about just something that's just like being observant, like everyone has some stuff that happened, but if you realize, like you said, it's all material. That one time in 5th grade where the girl that you really liked embarrassed you in front of everyone when you said, hey, will you go out with me or be my girlfriend? Like, no, ugly, get away from me. That is something that's material. And if we really take the time to go back and kind of reverse engineer some of these stories, you can pull some stuff that's going to be a killer keynote or a killer opening to your work presentation or an opening speech that you could be giving at, like, your best man speech at a wedding. Like, people are like, nothing ever happened to me. Like, what? Like, dude, that thing with the guy taking off his shoes and socks on the plane, that whole thing, I mean, it was a very short flight, thank God, but it was like, an hour, right? And so an hour of my 51 years in this life, that story has given me more mileage than like most of the big things that happened in my life. So it's like just being aware and using this, but also to your earlier point and the whole point about like this laugh or death concept, if you take yourself too seriously, then the material that keeps coming to your life is going to be lost. You're going to miss the opportunities. You're going to miss all the good stuff because we're too busy trying to look good and smart and funny and thoughtful and all these things. Just be observant. Don't take yourself so seriously. Share with a little bit of humor, and quite frankly, maybe you can change the world in the process.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, and that we have a choice of how we're going to react to that moment. Like, I can choose to see that guy doing that and be pissed off and be like, I can't believe this. This is, and just like be angry the entire flight and later and whatever. Or I can choose to note it, think this is gross and hysterical and weird, but hey, I'm going to get a ton of mileage out of cord flossing like toe jam guy, So
it's all material.
Yeah,
all
man.
material.
Yeah, that's good. I guess that, kind of brings me to, has there been a time in your life that chips were down, like something bad happened, you had a negative experience, and humor either presented itself in an unexpected way or helped buoy you through it, or something like that? How was humor able to maybe help you through a hard time?
Yeah, I mean, I use it all the time. So I deal with depression clinically. So it's not, that's not super funny, but what it is it's like what it does though is it causes me to spend more time kind of looking for things that, and when I go to a dark place, and sometimes it's out of my control, in spirit of full disclosure, I'm not medicated and I'm not against medication. I just haven't gone to that step yet. I think it's something that I'm trying to figure out on my own. But the point being is, like, as I go through and I look through things, I'm like, you know what, wow, like here we are in the spot where, but God, I still have like a roof over my head. And I go to a place of gratitude first, and then oftentimes like kind of laughing at it. What's really been helpful for me in this regard when I really struggle with my depression is something that I read in Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Mm-hmm. And if you're not familiar, for listeners who may not be familiar, hopefully everyone is, but Viktor Frankl was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist who was captured during Nazi Germany. And he spent 3 years in a Nazi concentration camp. And this man went through some of the most hellish conditions on earth. And the one thing that he said that got him through it, of all things, was humor, which is crazy to think about. but he's like, and I don't want to jack up the quote, come and paraphrase it, but basically he's saying like the one thing that that kept me going was humor. That one thing that you can and it's not, he's not laughing at the death of his friends and family, because that's sociopathic. What he was doing instead was just reflecting on the absurdity of it all. Like, this is insane. Like, how, like, these people think it's okay to do this to other human beings. And he wasn't laughing physically, but it allowed him to look at this as the ridiculousness as it was. And it helped to kind of ground him back in his physical reality, and allowed him not to be overcome by things that were outside of his control. And I'm like, yo, if this man can figure this out in the depths of a Nazi concentration camp, I sure as hell can figure it out when Sandy from accounting is being difficult to me. Right. Information. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have to lean into that. So when depression gets bad, or life is lifing and things happen that aren't ideal, I do remind myself of that. Like, I can laugh at it. I can be able to find some humor, some levity in it, which then kind of pulls me out of the woe is me and puts me into more of a place of agency, which I think is important to move past difficult situations.
Oh man, that gave me goosebumps talking about kind of looking at Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and being able to kind of give yourself some perspective there. Because, and you're right, like, and sometimes whatever you're dealing with, maybe depression, or there's a life event that you can't laugh at it. But then the goal is, can I laugh through it? Can I find ways? Because I think Man's Search for Meaning is the single greatest book ever written.
It's fabulous.
Now your book Go Together is awesome.
Pretty solid.
And Civil Unity, awesome. But Man's Search for Meaning, I'm going to put right up there.
A little bit above, just slightly.
It really is. And I think what he and his friends and family there were dealing with was just trying to laugh through an absurd, horrible, horrific situation, and finding some strength in that. They've taken so much from us, but man, we can still find some of our situations funny. And that group humor, being able to find something funny in a moment of togetherness, it really bonds people when we are able to laugh at shared experiences. They weren't laughing at someone else's experience. They're laughing at something they're all going through together. And that's really powerful. And sometimes humor just helps us maybe just, even if we're not able to find humor in our situation, it can distract us from our situation. Because I'll bet every moment they had in the concentration camp where something made them laugh, I think he talks about even making fun of like the haircuts they were getting and that kind of stuff. And, even those moments where they're able to just have a brief moment of levity, our brains can't process humor and psychological distress at the same time. So it's just like a brief break from their trauma that they're getting. That trauma's still going to be there moments later.
It's like a neurological circuit breaker, because you're in a position where you're really struggling with something. And our brains, while are certainly capable of holding multiple thoughts at the same time, when you're in a place of humor, you can't be in a place of despair either, because those two things are juxtaposed in a way that are so different from one another. You're either going to be in one place or another. And even if that respite is only like 10 seconds, it's 10 seconds where you broke the pattern of feeling helpless in a place of despair. Also, too, with humor, and it's probably better than I do, but how many times has humor in medical journals been found to be able to heal people from deep, deep illness, from disease, from cancer? And just be able to find, I should know this, and I don't know why. It's very famous, but this person was sick, I want to say it was cancer, and was watching like comedic videos over and over again, and ended up healing themselves.
Yeah, Norman Cousins.
That's what it was. Yes, Norman Cousins. Correct. Yes, yes. It's a powerful, powerful thing. And I think that's when people say, well, humor, I don't have time for it to be, I don't have time to laugh, I don't have time for this thing, I don't have time to be happy. Like, these same people strangely still find the time to be an ass, right? So it's like, why not find the time? Like, so you're fine for that. So why not find time to do something that's going to lift you up, increase, serotonin in your body, and maybe give you a little bit more hope in the faith in your goodness of the fellow humans that you happen to surround yourself with.
Oh, I love it. Are there times though, like when you when you're going through bouts of depression or sadness, where it's hard for you to access humor, or it's like that feels like, nothing feels funny. I'm not in the mood to watch a comedy. Like, when I'm depressed, it's like, oh, just watch some stand up and make you laugh. It's like, that doesn't even feel good. Are there times where humor is like not really an accessible emotion to you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I don't want to be super clear. Like, it's like, there are days where I'm like, yeah, I'm not here for that. I'm not feeling it because, it's just like, cause it just seems so hard. But I often think about metaphorically speaking of like when I don't want to work out, like physically don't want to work out. There's never been a time when I've regretted going to the gym, right? Or getting workout in. It's kind of the same idea applies here. Like, yeah, there's gonna be times where I just can't do it or I don't really feel like it. However, there's times where I just kind of force myself. There's one of the things now is like, you don't have to go like pull up Netflix or your favorite special. I try to curate my social media feed around really funny people. So there's enough political outrage that's going to make my brain itch. So I do my best to like try to find the stuff that's really funny. And I could go onto my feed, which is especially curated for really funny stuff. And I can go there and be like, oh, okay. No matter what's going on, like I'm going to get a chuckle, and it just changes my energy ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And that is it's like the whole Newton's law situation, like an object in motion stays in motion, all that good stuff. It's kind of the same idea here. So if I can just listen to something that's funny, get a little bit of a laugh, then if I can find a way to kind of compound or build upon that and get another laugh, I've now taken my energy from a scale of 1 to 10 from a 1 to a 4. And that might not be like great, comparatively speaking, but compared to 1,
right,
that's a huge improvement, right? So yeah, I try to remind myself of that when I really don't feel like finding something funny in what I'm dealing with at the time.
I love that. Yeah, you bring up a good point too, that it's searching for happiness, trying to be happy. It's not about going from like despair to being overjoyed and happy. I mean, it's literally about how can I access the next most positive emotion? Maybe it's, just contentment for now. And moving forward that way. So yeah, going from a 1 to a 4, that's huge sometimes. But for me, like there are times when I feel overwhelmed, stressed, sad. Yeah, humor. Like I don't feel like watching comedy. I don't feel like doing comedy or thinking. And that's actually a sign to me that something's off. Like if I'm not feeling like laughing or even watching comedy or and it's like multiple days in a row, that's a sign to me that like some kind of in my internal algorithm in my body is off here, because I love that stuff. It's who I am. And that's when I know like, okay, I need to switch something up here. So
you can tell like there's so many signs that like, the universe is very good at letting you know when you're off your game. And sometimes it could be as simple as things that you found funny aren't funny anymore. Things that you found meaning in, you don't find meaning in anymore, or whatever it may be. So I find myself that like, if it's something that I know is objectively good for me, like there's no one can argue that it's not, and I'm still not finding joy in it. This may sound a little counterintuitive, but I tend to do it. I haven't forced myself to do it. I'm like, all right, I know this is good for me. Like, for example, like back in my darkest moments, I was like, I'm going to go outside and get some vitamin D on my sun. I'm going to go get some sunlight. I don't feel like it, but objectively, I know this is good for me. I know I'm going to drink some water. I don't feel like drinking water. Well, guess what? I'm going to drink some water instead of grabbing some brown liquor. I'm going to get some water. Like, these things are things that I will force myself to do for my wellness, and humor absolutely falls into that category as well.
Yeah, that's great. So is there anything that like with what you do in terms of speaking, like when you're crafting keynotes and, Shola speaks to massive, at keynotes, huge conferences, speaks to large companies, whether it's a nursing association or a hospital or a tech company, whatever. And so you've got to command their attention for an hour, maybe up to a couple hours, to give these inspiring keynotes. And your message about being able to be unified and to be able to be kind to one another, even in the face of when people aren't being so kind to you, and having difficult conversations, it's not an inherently funny message. How do you use humor in that? Like, is that stuff that just kind of happens on stage? Or do you look at your talks and go, all right, I need something lighter here? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, man, it's so deeply like intentionally structured. It's someone told me this, and I wish I could remember the person's name, or maybe I just heard it somewhere. Is like the best talks feel like it's organic and feels like you're just having a conversation, but it's so deeply rehearsed.
Yes.
Like when you watch these stand-up events, like these people who are so good on these Netflix specials, these stand-up comedians, it feels so conversational. It feels like they're just like, they're sipping water, they're just kind of going off. It feels like it's off the cuff, but it's so deeply rehearsed.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So like I think about like the moments that, because yeah, I mean, I in my darkest moment, I attempted suicide, and I share that at the top of my talk. Now, if you think about that, that's dark. Yeah. I mean, no one's gonna be like, oh, that's funny. How'd that go for you, buddy? You're still here.
Right.
Like no one's doing that, right? So what ends up happening is that usually one of three things happen as a result of me sharing that story. One, they either reflect on the fact that maybe someone that they've loved has died by suicide, which is really horrifying. Or two, they share or they tell me afterward that they have either attempted themselves, which is also really sad. Or three, they share that like, they're thinking about it and then hearing my talk changed their mind. So like, you start with something that's so heavy, and if you keep it at this really heavy trauma dumping kind of energy, it's too much for people, and they can't enjoy it, and they can't get any information out of it. I have to set the stage because I gotta let them know how deeply unkindness can affect people, right? So that was like, so when I talk about kindness, most people are like, oh, okay, you're gonna talk about high fives and free hugs and friendship bracelets. Oh, that sounds great. I'm a hardcore executive. What are we doing here? So then when you talk about like the real dark shit, excuse my language, I don't know, the real dark stuff, it's like what ends up happening is that people are like, oh, whoa, okay, this is serious. Yeah. And then when I get them to that place that I got their attention, then I'm able to take them on a journey through humor. And I do that very intentionally. And the way that I do it is by taking a lot of risks. And I think humor is a risk thing. I hear a lot of speakers say, I'm not funny. Well, I mean, who is? But I mean, you are observant. Yeah. You do have ideas of what stuff that's happened, sharing stories and taking risk and being willing to, I mean, I use different voices in my talk. I mean, I do it all the time. I talk about like, my dad is from Sierra Leone, West Africa. And I do his accent. I'm like, Shola, come here, boy. We need to talk. And like, it seems funny, right? And like, my mom is from the deep South. And so she's like, oh, baby, come here, boy. You're so sweet. Come on over here, boy. Give your mama a hug. Like, now, mind you, do I sound exactly like them? No. And they cringe when I do it. However, what it does connect is the audience into something where they're able to be drawn out of the experience of a guy just talking on a microphone and making it about them and sharing stories where other people get to be the hero. My mom, my dad, the person in the grocery store, and talk about moments that are so common. Like when you talked about, the reason why I thought what you did was so brilliant with that video, that social media one around meetings, we've all been in meetings that have failed. We've all been in meetings that are so dumb and useless and pointless, and you just want it to be an email and just move on. Yeah. What you did is take that common experience and juxtapose it in a way that's actually really funny and common and relatable. And that's what I try to do, whether you're in healthcare or you're in finance. There are so many stories that I try to tease out when I have my little pre-event call with folks, the common things that are frustrating, and then find a way to kind of spin it and make it funny and get a laugh out of them, because adult learning has shown that when you make something humorous and funny, what ends up happening is that learning sticks way more than it would if you're dropping your 7-point framework on how to make the workplace better. Like,
absolutely.
It's like less is more. Bring humor into it, and they're going to walk away remembering you forever, whereas your 7-point framework will be forgotten by the time you walk off stage.
Yeah, if they're laughing, they're listening. I mean, I think it's Jeffrey Gitomer, I think, has a great quote that says, the end of laughter marks the height of listening. And because once you've said something that gets people laughing so much, and then that pause after they're done laughing, they are like, what are you gonna say next? And that, I mean, as a speaker, as a comedian, that is like the best feeling. It's like, okay, I've got the attention of the room, so now you can make that really deep, salient point that you want to make. You can bring it back to the dramatic if you need to. I figure that what you do, and you're exactly right with like stand-up comedy, people think, oh, well, this guy's really good because I like it because he's just off the cuff. And I'm like, he's not off the cuff. He's great at making it look like He's off the cuff. My first TEDx talk on humor and leadership. There's a moment where I talk about how good humor is for your body, and that even fake laughter, your body doesn't even know the difference between a fake laugh and a real laugh. And coincidentally, I don't know the difference either. So if I say something that's not that funny, feel free to laugh anyway for your own benefit. And I knew that I had never done that talk before, but I had a very good suspicion that there'd be a couple little chuckles at that, not like a full room laugh, So I was prepared with, so like a couple people in the front row gave a little chuckle when I said, feel free to laugh anyway. I don't know the difference between a fake laugh and a real laugh. And there was a couple little chuckles and I go, great example up front. Thank you. And then the whole room laughed. And so it looked super spontaneous, but I kind of knew that was probably going to happen. And I was freaking prepared for it, man. I was like teed up, like I'm going to knock this thing. Yeah. So things like that. But I love how you kind of scaffold humor in there with such a serious topic, and that you're even doing your audience doesn't know the voices of your parents. Like they don't know what they sound like. So it's just fun for them to see you do it.
And it's funny, part of so interesting about this and what you did in your TEDx talk, which is very, very funny, no pun intended, and very clever. It's like, there's a danger though in humor that I think is like so important. It's like, yes, you want to make sure that it's prepared and thoughtful, but the worst thing you can do are jokes that are, I mean, like when people drop jokes, I mean, it's like, sometimes it's like, all right, being funny means you got to tell jokes. Like, hey, man, I just flew in here from Atlanta and boy, are my arms tired. I mean, like, good Lord, no. Listen, I'm a dad joke guy, and like I love a good dad joke every now and then, more than most folks. And I actually have a cup here that says Dad Joke Pro because I truly am a dad joke pro.
Oh, look at you.
I love a good dad joke. But you also got to know, if you're doing it, like if you're offering a dad joke as a way to like get a laugh, it's gonna be hard to explain. You got to be in on the joke, right? If you're like, you tell a dad joke and they're like, why aren't you laughing? Like that's you're missing the point. Like if you're cringing and you want them to groan at how bad it is, that's a different story, right? You're like,
exactly.
You want them to be like, oh, okay. Hey, is this thing on? Hey guys, any dads out here alone up here?
You're intentionally doing, bad joke or a dad joke or whatever, and then people are going to groan and go, oh, that was pretty cheesy. Well, then the joke's on you, so it's okay. But if you're out there pausing for laughter after this,
where's my standing ovation?
It's so embarrassing, man. Yeah, it's
no one wants to be that guy.
So I was telling you, I think before we started recording, I've been listening to your podcast, the Kindness Extremist podcast, which is just it's an awesome podcast. And for all, after you're done binging my whole season of Laugh or Death podcast, and you need more listening to do, Shola's podcast, The Kindness Extremist, he gives you in like 30 minutes or less, like 3 great takeaways of just how to create a kinder world and how to be kind, maybe even in the face of like some difficult conversations. So I'm curious with your work with kindness, how you think humor fits or doesn't fit, or where you think maybe it helps or maybe hinders our ability to create a kinder world.
Oh, it's hand to glove. I think that if you can't look, I'm evoking Viktor Frankl. If you can't look at like the challenges that we're facing and find some way to kind of look at it and be like, this is so ridiculous that we're in this place right now. Like, how in the world did we get here? And to find that levity and also that shared connection where we're kind of looking around like, are you in on the joke too? Do you get how crazy this is that we're all experiencing this right now in this period of time? The Kindness Extremist podcast is a way to cut through all the noise. Everyone's busy. People got stuff going on and they want to know how to create a kinder world, but they don't have 2, 3, 4 hours to listen to like a long form podcast. They can get the tips really quickly, but I also want to deliver it in a way that is fun and funny and relatable, right?
Yeah.
We all have had difficult coworkers. We've all had that one manager. We all had that family member who is like steeped in conspiracy theories. Like, we got to figure out how to navigate this stuff in a way that's going to allow us to keep our sanity, while also giving you the tactical tools on what to do. Because I mean, I think if there is a whole thing, hey man, just be kinder. Well, that's friggin' helpful. Thank God Mr. Shola Richards came here to save me on that. Thank you for that piece of common sense. I got to give them something that is deeper than just be kinder, smile more, give harder high fives. Like,
exactly.
I think it really is around how do we critically think? What does it mean to think critically in this world? How do we deal when people become radicalized? How do we navigate real deep mental health challenges? How do we have difficult conversations? I believe with every fiber of my being that the quality of our lives are based on the amount of difficult conversations that we're willing to have. So if we can do the work of finding a difficult conversation, everyone has a difficult conversation that they're holding off on. Everyone, unless you're just some recluse alone or whatever. But most people,
you gotta call me out like that, man.
Sorry, man. I know. I wanted to make sure that I had to be inclusive, man. I want to make sure that even though people like you, no, I'm kidding. This guy's not a recluse. For crying out loud. He's that guy who I've been following for so long. The power of this, though, Paul, is like, when you do it in this way of thinking about, we all have to have challenging conversations and difficult things that require kindness, then the way to bring them in is to use things that are accessible. And humor is one of those things. It's an on-ramp to the deeper, more challenging conversations. Not necessarily you jump into a conversation that's difficult with humor, but when you learn how to have these conversations and you learn how to get to the tactical stuff and they bring you in with humor, then you're more willing to try the hard stuff when the time comes. That's the whole idea. I just want people to feel like, okay, this thing that was super scary and intimidating to me, I now feel like it's accessible because the guy who's talking to me seems like a normal dude. I'm not talking at people. I'm not talking down to people. I'm going through the struggle too. I'm out here on the street trying to navigate this stuff. Exactly, I don't know how to do all this. I'm researching the best stuff that I've found throughout my life. All this stuff behind me, these books, this is not a virtual background. I read, these are books that I've read. And I've taken the information that I've learned and distilling in a way that hopefully would be practical and adding a little humor to make it more accessible for the listener.
Dang, look at you showing off. You're like, these are all books that I've read. And I'm like, here, I've got 3 copies of my own book.
Listen, man, my books are out here too, family. Trust me. So but you know, it's funny because a lot of people have a virtual background of a bookshelf. So I'm like, no, these are like real books. They're good. They're really there.
Oh man. Well, yeah, it's, you know, you've accomplished that for sure with your podcast, because it's very accessible and it's really uplifting and inspiring as well. And you're exactly right. Humor. There's a great study out of the Greater Good Center at Berkeley where they had strangers come into a room together, and strangers wouldn't be allowed to talk to each other. They would just watch videos, and strangers who watched neutral or more serious videos, and then they had strangers who watched funny videos, and those strangers that watched funny videos and laughed in proximity to one another then later reported far higher levels of liking that other person in the room than the strangers who didn't laugh. And it's because when we laugh, oxytocin floods our brain, and that's the chemical that's responsible for us being connected with one another, and sharing empathy. And it also means, like, if we're both laughing, that means we both get it. Like we've got empathy of a situation there, one another. We're experiencing a worldview the same way, even though we've never spoken. So I do think that there's something with humor and laughter that can really help us, unite and make a kinder world. So that's why I wanted to have you on this podcast, man. I really appreciate all your insights and just the way you go about your work. You know, I want to leave the listener with this, that social media isn't all bad, because I feel like I've known Shola for a long time. I feel like he and I are boys, but we've never met in person, which is weird to me because I feel like we have. But we kind of just somehow started talking, like commenting on each other's posts online, becoming fans of each other's work, and really like hyping each other up when we did something cool. And over the years, it's kind of grown into this friendship that
absolutely,
I think that's what social media was supposed to be about.
Amen.
So it worked out all right.
We did. We get it right, and I think that's what's so cool about this. And when we do start to lose hope, 2 guys who've never met, but just were inspired by other person's content, reaching out to each other, creating a real authentic vibe with one another. We knew when Paul reached out to me and generously extended an invite onto his podcast, both of us almost like in email kind of said it like organically, like we're not going to run out of stuff to talk about. Like, it's not gonna, like we don't need like, here are some questions so you can kind of think on, like, dude, let's just roll in there and just see what happens. And sure enough, it was just, I mean, I feel like we're just getting started, but we've been talking for like close to 40 minutes. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing that was just so natural and just such a beautiful, beautiful connection.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you so much for doing this. And everybody go listen to the Kindness Extremist podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast. And if you're interested in booking Shola to speak at your next event, you can get them at sholarichards.com and go to, is it also gotogether.com?
No, it used to be. So now just sholarichards.com.
Sholarichards.com. All right. Sholarichards.com. Yeah. But yeah, his podcast is awesome. Shola, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you doing this.
My guy. Appreciate you, Paul. Thanks for having me, man.
You got it.
You've been listening to Laugh or Death with Paul Ozenkup. If you're planning a conference or event and want something smart, meaningful, and actually funny, book Paul to speak. To learn more or to get a copy of his book, The Humor Habit, visit laughordeath.com.